excuse me. Relevance of al-Qawa'id al-Fiqhiyya today. And the modern day ijtihad, the modern day fiqh issues, new technology, medical science, so on and so forth. Qawa'id Fiqhiyya is going to be, or they are after the text of Quran and Sunnah, after the athar of the Salaf, etc., qiyas, etc. That's the meat and the potatoes of the faqih, of talab al-ilm. Qaida fiqhiyya in itself is a dalil for an issue for which there is no dalil. So qaida fiqhiyya can allow a person, a mufti, to give 1,000 fatwas on modern day issues that didn't exist in the time of the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. An example of this would be traveling by plane, traveling towards other than the Qibla, sitting down when you pray, not traveling, praying towards other than the Qibla, sitting down when you pray, so on and so forth, right? What's the ruling on praying on an airplane? I'm going to miss the prayer if I don't pray. Can I pray on an airplane? How do I pray on an airplane? Etc., etc., etc. So the faqih, the mujtahid, or someone who's partially mujtahid, you can be a student of knowledge as well. There are levels of ijtihad as well. That person, he can say, it's obligatory for you to pray on the plane, and it's lawful and it's valid for you to pray on the plane, even though you're not facing the Qibla, you're sitting down, etc., etc. And the proof for that is such and such qaida. This qaida. Because the hadiths about praying, there were no airplanes in the time in which those hadiths were said. The ayat that were quoted, there were no what? There were no airplanes then. The travel was different then. Airplanes are new, it's modern. So the faqih can go back to the qaida and use the qaida as a specific dalil that you have to pray, and then it's valid to pray on the airplane. Understand? And there are many, many other things as well. Taking medicines, vaccines, so on and so forth. A general qaida, and there are many qawaid. 5 of them are the major maxims, but there are many other qawaid as well, that the scholars of Islam for centuries, for years, they've used them on different arising problems, modern day problems. So the qaida fiqhiyya, along with usul of fiqh, and along with the study of fiqh, those 3 things there, that's what? Fail-proof plan, bi'idhnillahi ta'ala. And the 4th thing that I would add is the more knowledge and the more experience you have about the world and history and the nature of man and the rising and the falling, and the more you know about life and people, and you can blend it with those other 3 things, there's no way you can lose bi'idhnillahi ta'ala. And you'll be able to navigate through any situation. You'll be able to know what to do and what not to do, what advice to give. And if it's your place to tell someone else the ruling on something, you'll be able to, by Allah's permission. And these are from the most important and from the most necessary tools of the ijtihad. And alhamdulillah, the scholars of Islam, they've written many books on qawaid fiqhiyya, of past and of present. The only thing that you have to do as a student of knowledge is open up those books and sit at the feet of those scholars who teach. And Allah Azza wa Jalla surely knows best. That's in brief, taban, ikhtisar.
For example, like a lot of modern issues are available that you can find questions, the answers online, and even the scholars, they are not up, like many of the answers are not up to speed. For example, a new phenomenon is cryptocurrency, and there is a fatwa by Indonesian scholars, they gave like 2-3 weeks ago that it's haram. And some says no, and then now the
clear,
yeah,
crystal clear. The talib al-ilm has to go with what his heart and his mind tell him. As long as he's sincere, and as long as he's following the knowledge that he's learned, he puts it into practice, with or without this modern day scholar or this modern day group. The talib al-ilm that can't make ijtihad, he makes his ijtihad, even if it's for himself. I'm not telling no one else, I don't feel comfortable with this ruling. I do feel comfortable with this ruling, based off of this, based off of that. Not best. That's your job. That's your duty, to be sincere and to follow that which your heart tells you to follow. And Shaykh Ibn Uthaymeen, rahimahullah ta'ala. So no one think or say, well, I'm just making this up and bringing this from my pocket without the scholars saying it first, etc. You can read the fatwa of Shaykh Ibn Uthaymeen on a student of knowledge making the ijtihad and the possibility of it. And you can read the speech of the scholars of Islam on the necessity of ijtihad for someone who isn't a mujtahid mutlaq, an absolute mujtahid. And when you study the chapter of ijtihad, you'll find conditions and prerequisites that don't apply to the scholars of today, 100 years ago, 200 years ago, 300 years ago, 500 years ago, those shurut and those sharat were what? Long gone. And if all of those different prerequisites were applied to this fifth council, to these muftis, to this azhar, to legend of them, they wouldn't what? There would be no fatwa, there would be no ijtihad. So many people today, they try to box it and marginalize people. Oh, it's haram, you can't say this. You have to ask brother fulan, such and such, such and such, such and such. They don't understand. Huh? And Allah surely knows best. May Allah help us all. Any other questions, brothers? Fadda, akhi.
Can the Quran or books of knowledge, stuff like that in it, be rested on the carpet of the masajid?
Can a book of knowledge or the Quran, the Mus'haf, or other respected book of ilm in which Allah's name is mentioned, Allah's attributes are mentioned, can it be placed upon the ground or the floor in the masjid, etc.? It shouldn't. Put it on a high place, inshallah, if you can. Put it somewhere that it won't be disrespected or desecrated, even accidentally. However, it's not necessarily haram. If you're sitting down and it's there in front of you, it's not haram. Okay? I wouldn't advise that you do that if you want to get up, if someone or something else is going to come into the room. But if you're sitting on the carpet and you place it there, it's not haram. But it's best to place it on a what? A stand, your lap, and try your best to give the books of ilm the utmost respect. The what? The utmost respect. Wallahu a'lam. Wa iyyakum. You have the questions online? You want to read them? Follow me. حياك الله خالد. كيف حالك؟ الحمد لله طيب؟ ما شاء الله. You got him?
Yeah, AFG Isa, IT California, is touching the private parts with right hand by accident requires.
You gotta go all the way up, I think.
Janaba.
Go all the way up.
All the way at the top. Okay, there you go.
Mr. Abdullah.
Mr. Abdullah, AA Toronto, Ontario, Toronto. Salam Sheikh, given Isha can be prayed until Fajr, what is the latest Maghrib and Isha can be prayed when combining the prayers due to travel?
Bismillah. With regards to combining between Maghrib and Isha, when is the latest that one can combine them since Isha can be made before Fajr? The latest that a person can make Maghrib and Isha while traveling is the latest that one can make Isha. Wallahu alam.
SC from Jamaica, Queens, New York City. I get paid hourly at my part-time job, so there's no fixed amount that I'm paid at the end of the year. Sometimes it can be higher or lower than. I don't see the question.
It's probably a continuation. It got chopped or clipped in half. If not, then we move on to the next question.
Yeah, okay. Then the previous year, do I still have to pay zakat?
Those who get paid hourly and they don't know how much money they have, a fixed amount, etc., don't have to pay zakat. You pay zakat on the money that you save for 12 months. Period. Whether you get paid by the hour, by the minute, by the day, by the week, by the job, the money that you save up for 12 Islamic months and you didn't have to touch that money, you must pay the 2.5 on it. Whether it's for marriage, for college, for a house, whatever money that you save for 12 months. Period. Wallahu alam.
FA from Houston, Texas. Can you translate Reba to usury or interest or both or none?
Can you translate the term riba to usury or interest or both or none? Different views. Some say that riba is riba. Whatever name or title is given. Interest, fee, benefit, percentage, APR, etc. And others, they may say, and this is an argument, doesn't mean it's the most correct or what I believe, but it's a valid argument. And what I mean by a valid argument is that there are knowledgeable people who have adopted it. That's what I mean by a valid argument. Understand? Some say that riba is usury. And usury is gross eating and consumption and charging and paying and abuse. As far as interest, which is fixed, which is set, which is agreed upon by both parties, it's a benefit for the loaner, the debtor, the deadee, etc., they say that that's not Reba. Not saying that's the strongest view, but someone could make that what? An argument with that. Some people, they say that they're the same. Some people say that they're different. Wallahu ta'ala, and that's a very long discussion. Tfaddal.
MHG, Queens, New York. Assalamu alaikum. Assalamu alaikum, Sheikh. My mother wants to put me on her life insurance. What is the ruling on this?
Insurance sometimes is a necessity. There's no doubt about that. Anyone who lives in the world today knows that. And oftentimes insurance isn't a necessity. You don't have to have it. Sometimes it could be a need. That's a fact as well. And sometimes insurance is just a luxury. So if and when insurance is just a luxury, stay away from it. It's not needed. It isn't needed. Don't deal with it. If it is necessity, if it's not necessity, it is a necessity, but it's a need, haja. No doubt, it's going to cost me 3 times more, or it's going to delay this, etc. Different story. And insurance, whether we like it or not, it touches, I would say, Allahu Alam, I don't know if I have the right to say this, but maybe probably all of our lives. One level or another. One level or another, right? Brother, he said what? He was in the Yemeni cafe, downtown Brooklyn. We were eating what? So, a sumptuous plate, right? What they say, a sumptuous dish. Soft, tender lamb chops, right? Rice, pilaf, so on, saffron, etc., right? We're eating. So the brother, he walks up to me, alhamdulillah, like many Yemeni brothers, very respectful, very nice, old school style. Kef halak sheikh, blah, blah, blah. And as we eat, he talks, asks questions, a little light debates, etc. So one day we went to the restaurant, saw the same brother, we're talking, we're eating the lamb chops, and he said, yeah, sheikh. He asked me about houses, mortgages. Can a person have a house on a mortgage? Is it lawful? Blah, 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 blah. So I mentioned him what the ulama of Islam mentioned. They say this, they say that, blah, 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 etc. So I told him, and he asked me about, well, some scholars say it's lawful, you can get a mortgage, so it's not haram, it's not riba, etc. I said, no problem. So he said, how can some scholars say this? How can you even tell me this? What do you mean a person can pay this extra? What do you mean a person can take this fine? What do you mean it's more than the original cost, etc., etc.? So I asked him. I said, right now we're in downtown Brooklyn, right? The Yemeni Cafe, the restaurant. Is it insured? If I slip and I fell, if it burnt down, may Allah prevent. If something happened, if one of these kuffar, one of these types of kuffar, if something happened, what would happen? Is it insured? You know what the brother said? He said, Taban. He said, of course it's insured. Not, yes, he said what? Of course it is. So I said, you want to join us eating these lamb chops? And if not, it's nothing further to discuss. You yourself acknowledge what? The need, the necessity, or the permissibility of dealing with those things. That's your fatwa then. Get the point I'm trying to make? So many people, they pick and they choose when it comes to insurance. Car insurance is lawful, of course. Consensus is ijma that you can have a car, right? Right or wrong? Police pulls you over. What's the first thing he's going to ask you for? That's a fact. They may ask you for the insurance without the license. Right or wrong sometimes. Whatever the case may be. That's lawful, right? House insurance, haram, astaghfirullah. Life insurance, haram, astaghfirullah. Business insurance, what? Haram, astaghfirullah. All other insurance is what? Evil. But the car insurance is durura. Who told you it's durura? You can't get on a train?
Everybody loves cars.
Right or wrong? You can't ride a bike, you can't walk. Right? Let alone the fact that the train and the plane and these things that you get on there also what? Insured. So, we have to take a realistic approach to life. Right? Long time. You guys get the point I'm trying to make or not? Wallahu alam. Next question. We spent too much time on that.
I'm from London. In Thai boxing, they have some cultural dances that is a part of the Thai boxing culture. Is it allowed to partake in them? Barakallahu feek.
With regards to Thai boxing and certain cultural dances that they do, is it lawful, so on and so forth. The discussion of boxing, is it lawful to box, to practice, to train? Let's just sit that on the side for now. Thai boxing, is that lawful? Whether it's kickboxing or other than kickboxing. certain things that are done to the body, your body, the opponent's body, what you dress, how you, that's what? Let's move that off the discussion table for now. Dancing. Is it lawful to do a dance? Is it permissible for a man to dance? In general, singing and dancing, as long as it isn't something which is directly haram, accompanied by something which is haram, pertaining to some type of shirk or some type of culture that's based off of shirk and kufr, different story, yani. Not imitating women, nothing which is specific to the kuffar. If it's a means of training or something which is unprescribed, there's no ruling for it or against it, different story. And of course, it's always best to what? Avoid anything which is doubtful or could be problematic. Wallahu ta'ala alam.
AM, Assalamu alaikum, I'm from Schenectady. What is your opinion on polygamy for yourself?
What is my opinion on polygamy for myself? What's important is I'm a Muslim. I'm a Muslim, alhamdulillah. And inshallah, I'm a believer. Inshallah. I believe in what Allah has said and what His Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam has said. Period. And if polygamy is included in that, then next question.
I from DCNJ. Assalamu alaikum, Mufti. Is it best to say Sayyidul Istighfar at Fajr or after sunrise? Jazakallahu khairan.
Wa yakum. You're going to make Sayyidul Istighfar, inshallah ta'ala, when you wake up and when you go to sleep. That's one way of understanding Yumsi or Dakhala fil Masa, fil Sabah, etc. When you wake up and when you go to sleep. And another way of understanding it is when the morning comes and when the afternoon or evening comes. Wallahu a'lam. Me personally, I would say it at the time of sleep and the time of waking up. Wallahu a'lam.
AM from Queens, New York. Is machine slaughtered chicken halal?
Machine slaughtered chicken, is it lawful? Many scholars have allowed it. Modern day ulama, ijtihad, many say that it's lawful to eat machine slaughtered chicken if the name of Allah was mentioned at the initial operating of the machine. I would try to avoid it myself. I wouldn't feel comfortable with it myself. Wallahu alam.
SR, Ottawa, Ontario. Is investing in a stock that is mostly speculative and whose value is based on hype permissible? Please let me know where I can read on this if there is more detail. Thank you.
Well, yakum. Investing in a stock which is highly speculative. It's based off of hype, so on and so forth. Once more, investing in stocks, is that lawful or unlawful? It's a discussion. What's important is, regardless of its hype or if it's speculative, it goes up, that's tijara. Hot and cold. There's nothing wrong with taking a chance, taking a gamble, and investing in something which is based off of hype. Even when it comes to selling products and monopolizing products, things that aren't needed by the people, is based off of the season or hype. Khayran. There's nothing wrong with that. It doesn't have to be something which is guaranteed, something that stays there. Buying and selling is always prone to loss. Wallahu a'lam.
AFG Isa, IT California. Does touching the private parts with right hand by accident require someone to restart ghusl janaba?
Touching your private part with your right hand by accident, does it require you to restart your ghusl or wudu?
Ghusl.
No. No, you don't have to restart your ghusl. Whether you touch your private part with your right hand intentionally or unintentionally, you can continue with your ghusl. As far as wudu, that's a different story. And the answer to that as well is that if you touch your private part by accident, then inshallah ta'ala, you don't have to make a new wudu. Regardless of the madhabs of the ulama regarding or pertaining to touching the private part. It's by accident. Period. Allahu a'lam.
JL from Philadelphia. Is it permissible to do wudu not in order, i.e. sequence?
Make wudu in sequence. Don't step outside of the sequence of wudu. Wallahu a'lam.
Aisha Willie. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Real life grammar. No city, state. Tanvir Ahmed, H.A. Pakistan, Lahore. Hey brother, is a Muslim allowed to enter politics?
Yes and no. Some Muslims, some politics, yes. Some Muslims, no. Some Muslims in certain types or fields or areas of politics, no. It depends on the Muslim and on the politics. Wallahu alam.
UA from Boston, Massachusetts. Can periods of low iman happen over the course of months or a year?
Periods of low iman over a course of months or year. Difficult to conceive. Difficult to conceive. Some believers, some Muslims maybe. But a Muslim, a believer that's trying, that's fighting, that's struggling, it's difficult to conceive. It's possible, yes. May Allah help us all.
I mean,
But the concept of how is it happening? Why is your iman low for over a month, over a year? What do you mean by low? Not doing this, it depends on what you mean. But the true believer, he's gonna fight, he's gonna struggle. And I think that the true believer will always have pockets of resistance within that month or within that year. I had a bad month in general, but it doesn't mean that I just totally laid down and surrendered for an entire month. Wallahu alam. Even just with the thought, I have to fight this, I gotta stop, Wallahu alam.
RB, Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. Can I get a fleet of cars using auto loans from Bank of America to start my own business and not have to work for someone else?
Just like we said, right? Of interest, insurance, in the modern world today. All right? It's a big problem, a huge problem. What did the brother say last week when he came here? He said, I checked out all the Islamic websites, the Islamic loans, the Islamic mortgages, and he said at the end of the day, it's the one loaning the money that's gaining. He's gaining at the end of the day. What name they give it, murabaha, this, that, da, 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 they're making more money off of your need. They're becoming fatter off of you being skinny. That's what the brother said. And if you just look at the wisdom behind the prohibition of riba, and one of the main objectives of riba's prohibition, it's that, which is exploitation. The rich get richer, the poor get poorer. I'm eating big, I'm fat and healthy. I have plenty of fat to miss meals. Your ribs are showing. I'll toss you a bone or a piece of fat or a little bit of bread and broth, only if you what? Toss me some back. That mentality in itself, that's problematic Islamically. Now, it doesn't mean that a Muslim can't make money. We're not saying that. It doesn't mean that a Muslim can't benefit, that a Muslim can't profit. It doesn't mean that someone who's rich can't make money. Allah blesses whom He wills. But we're just talking about the philosophy behind the loaning and the mortgaging. The philosophy is, I give you corn, you have to give me what? More corn back. Whether it's agreed, whether it's a higher price, etc. And that's the same mindset of interest. We'll loan you money, you need the money, you need the car, you need the house, but we need to be fatter. So it's still problematic. All right? Try your best to avoid that, inshallah. And if you have to, if it's a need, put your trust in Allah and fear Allah the best way you can. Ameen. Fadl.
AJ, Cincinnati, Ohio. Submariner or Oyster Perpetual?
Allahu
You
Akbar.
have a watch, wind this shit.
Allahu Akbar. Submariner or Oyster Perpetual? Tayyib. It depends on your taste, right? However, is there a difference, Yani? Isn't the Submariner also
Perpetual.
Oyster Perpetual? What did the poet say? What? Look, with the what face? Onyx, right? I'm with him. It depends on your style, right? It depends on your style. If you're talking about Yani, date just or other types, if you had to pick one of the two, I say go with the Submariner. Pound for pound, something that you can wear anytime, any weather, any season, any outfit. Go with the what? Go with the Submariner. Do I have a watch winder? I have a few watch guys or ladies. They're not just men. A couple people that I go to from time to time, watch masters that, tune it up, clean it up, etc., etc. If that's what you call a watch winder, then yes. Wallahu alam.
RLG, Tokyo, Japan. Assalamu alaikum. Wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Is it permissible to watch anime or create one without much fitna sexual content?
That should be avoided. Making anime, creating anime should be avoided. If it comes to making real life living beings, they're going to be walking and talking and moving, imitating the law's creation, that should be avoided. As far as the anime, quote unquote, in which you aren't imitating the law's creation, things are made and done with the necessary Islamic precautions, the face, the eyes, etc. Different story. To combat the evil, the haram, or the graphic anime that's out there. As far as watching it, then that's a different story. Watching something, making it, creating it, two different things. Wallahu alam.
RLG, Tokyo, Japan. Mufti, you said you pay zakat for the money you saved for 12 months. Does that mean you don't pay for the money you had before the 12 months?
Zakat is due on 12 months of savings. Period. So for argument's sake, I had money for 11 months straight sitting there, laying. Something came up, an emergency, a death in the family, a major car accident, and insurance is haram, etc., etc., etc. And I have to take my stash. It's not, zakat isn't due. And of course, that's based off of sincerity, right? Not someone that keeps money for 11 months, and then when there are only 3 days left to 12 months, he says, let me what? Wallahu alam. So no. Khair inshallah. See, if we have anything on Instagram. One second, Habibi. Questions coming from Toronto. Initials NY. Salam Sheikh. In the 4th ayah of Talaq, it says, those women who have not menstruated yet. What does it mean if you cannot marry unless you reach puberty? How can you get divorced? Scholars of Islam, some of them hold the view that a woman can be married and divorced before she reaches sexual maturity, based off of that ayah. That a man can marry a young woman. We're not talking about consummation, we're talking about the actual what? Marriage. Right? Let alone marriage with consummation, etc. If she doesn't have a menstrual cycle yet, regardless of her age. Whether she's a late bloomer, or whether he married her before menstruation. Alright? So therefore, that's the view of some scholars. That's a proper understanding of many of the people. That's a proper understanding that you have. Some scholars have adopted that. This is the point I'm trying to make. And some scholars, they say other than that. With regards to that ayah, وَاللَّائِ لَمْ يَحِطْنَ, right? And the women who have not yet menstruated. Okay, with regards to the different types of a woman who menstruates. She's too old, menopause, she's too young, or she has an irregular menstruation. Wallahu alam. NY. From Toronto, Canada. Sheikh, is sexual assault a major sin in Islam, and is there a punishment for it specifically? What does Islam say about it? It's very common nowadays, unfortunately. Sexual assault is a combination of several major sins. Dhulm, oppression, wrongdoing, period. That in itself, you've wronged someone. You've taken something from them that you had no ability or no right to what? To take from. You stole as well. It's thievery. You stole this person's innocence, their virginity. You stole pleasure from them that you had no right to steal, etc. Khiyana. You're betraying the amana. Your nephew, your brother, what? He trusted you with his son, right? He trusted you with his daughter, right? Your wife trusted you with her daughters, your stepdaughters, your stepson. You've betrayed them. And there are many, many other infringements upon things which will lead to what? Major sins with regards to sexual assault. Everyone understand this? Not protecting many, many things. As far as is there a specific punishment for it, that falls under many things, such as zina. Except for that falls under illa ala azwajihim. You're violating, you're not protecting your farj, etc., etc. Several different things, all right? What's important is in Islam, in the Islamic penal code, there are things which are specifically laid down in Quran and Sunnah, and there are things that have been affirmed by the generalities of Quran and Sunnah. And things in which the ruler, the Islamic ruler, the legitimate Islamic ruler, the punishment of those acts is at his discretion. Had, ta'zir, you understand? Etc. Wallahu a'lam. May Allah help all the Muslims, guide all the Muslims, and remove sexual assault from the ranks of the Muslims. Ameen. Same questioner from the same place. Sheikh, nowadays favorite things, reading books, drinking coffee, and watching Mufti Munir videos. You show me the importance of women in Islam and what Islam really is. May Allah reward you. May Allah bless you. And may Allah allow your coffee to be good, to be blessed for you. Ameen. No initials. Khairan, inshallah. We'll stop here tonight. This is our last question. Further, Akhi.
So in the principle of fiqh, now, like, when it comes to acts of ibadah, everything is haram and is proven, in terms of mu'amalat, everything is proven halal and is proven haram. So in terms of the anime you mentioned, so we know the hadith mentions about pictures, and it's clear. And the issue of moving living objects, that's a current issue. So now, when we go to the issue of animation, and they say, because we could say about the video, then he says, okay, it's fine. So now, it's a living, moving thing now. It's not just drawn in a specific site. So if the person's creating and says, but there is not a narration which specifically says that it's not still, it's moving. So unless you can show me this, you can't say it's haram. How would you combat that? So if a person makes his ijtihad based on his narrations and all of this and says no, if I take that principle of fiqh, it is not an act of ibadah. This is an act, or this is also that there is no narration which specifically mentioned.
Clear, crystal clear. What's important is, of course, the animation, illustration, photography, videography, so on and so on and so forth. That's a long discussion on what's meant by kullu musawwirin finnar. Every musawwir will be in the fire of hell. One way of translating the word of the term musawwir is picture maker. A surah can be a picture, it's a fact. And others, they may translate the term to mean other things. An idol, someone who sculpts, who carves, etc., etc. So it's a long discussion by itself, first and foremost. Now, the person who says that making anime or any other type of animation, it isn't an act of ibadah, it's lawful until proven to be unlawful, so on and so forth, etc. Just because it is an act of ibadah doesn't mean it doesn't have a specific dalil for it or against it. But that's just a general theoretical principle. All ibadah is haram until proven sunnah. All acts of drinking, eating, so on, dressing are lawful until proven the opposite. Labas. But it doesn't mean that there aren't specific proofs that mandate certain worldly acts. And an example of this is the Eid. Some people, they say this holiday has nothing to do with religion. It's just a tradition. It's just a holiday. Or, see, they'll say it by accident, right? It's just a what? It's just a holiday, a holy day, right? The tongue will not lie what's on the inside. It's nothing special. It's just a what? A holiday. It's just a tradition that we have, a festival that we have. No problem. So if you can't prove from the Quran and Sunnah that it's haram, then it's lawful for me to celebrate Halloween or whatever the case may be. Okay, no problem. The general principle is that the dunya is lawful until proven unlawful. Clear. But that is also an example of mafhum and mantuq, hypothetically speaking. That's general, and this is what? Specific text stating this is our Eid. Every people, they have, etc. So the same applies to making pictures and making videos. It isn't ibadah. I'm not talking about religion. It's lawful when someone, they bring a specific proof, etc. Now, how do you understand that proof? Okay, what's meant by a living creature? Am I actually imitating Allah's creation? Am I capturing what Allah has created? That's a discussion. So the ijtihad could go either way. And a person may make the argument that creating cartoons or anime, etc., may be a necessity. And teaching the Muslim children that which is correct and proper. And fighting and countering and combating the tons of bad, evil, negative stuff that's out there in the form of cartoon or anime or movie, etc., etc. And that's a fact. All right? So the ijtihad or the difference of opinion, it could what? It could go either of the two ways. But what's important is, Malish, Afwan, there is a difference between, in my humble view, from what I've studied, a person creating the image, putting it together himself, by hand or electronically, versus a person saying what? Cheese. Stay still. Get in the picture. I'm not creating, I'm just what?
Capturing.
Snapping what Allah made and preserving it, versus a person putting it together. And if you just look at the history of art, I mean, what do artists say, right? Look at my what?
Creation.
I made this sculpture by what? Look at that painting. You see that? You see that sculpture is a huge difference between this and that. Even though taking pictures and videos is a skill as well. So can a person, the point is, can a Muslim electronically create something, an image, a living being? Is that included, or is that the same as sculpting and carving and painting? What would you say, Khalid? Same? وهكذا والله أعلم صلى الله وسلم وبارك على عبده ورسوله ونبينا وإمام Muhammad. Inshallah, don't forget about this Thursday, the 24th, at 9:30 p.m. Eastern Time, Holidays in Light of Quran with Sunnah, Volume 1, or Part 1. And also, b'idhnillahi ta'ala, this coming Monday, we will be starting our second semester of Ulum al-Quran. Our second semester of Ulum al-Quran. Everyone is welcome to join. The first semester, all of the classes and the recordings are there. If you want to join, it's not too late. It's time to catch up. Bi'idhnillahi ta'ala, the academic study of the Quran, inshallah, that will be starting this Monday. And also, bi'idhnillahi ta'ala, soon enough, we'll be starting another online course on usul al-fiqh. Bi'idhnillahi ta'ala, so look out for that, inshallah. Allah surely knows best. And we thank all of our supporters, all those who donate, all of our patrons, everyone who helps out the movement, and those who wish to donate or support or contribute or volunteer, you can do so to our social media platforms. Jazakumullah khairan. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
It's the 25th.
25th?
25th.
25th, excuse me, not the 24th, Thursday, 25th. Jazakumullah khairan. That's Thanksgiving?
Yeah.